I would get old tools. I had a little contractor DeWalt saw, old Ryobi miter saw, and I started getting cheap tools that were rusted, that were beat up, that were misused, and just like people didn't know what they had. So I was picking up old tools, restoring them, and using them. And then when the better one came out, so if my DeWalt saw got replaced by an old, like 1990s rigid saw, that rigid saw got replaced by a Delta. That Delta got replaced by a $600 Powermatic 2000 that was sitting in someone's basement. There's deals out there, you know. There's so much that you can find. Even this little Ryobi saw here was found on the side of the street. I thought it was bad, just off the block. Works perfectly fine, just needs a blade. The reason I'm saying this is because that's how the whole shop started.
Hey everybody, I'm Jonathan Odom, maker, inventor, designer, and Autodesker. Welcome to ShopTalk, the podcast series where we talk to makers, inventors, designers, and engineers from shop to shop. Today, we're talking to Peter from pTree's workshop. Peter has a dream shop that is totally self-sustaining. He's figured out how to make a business out of his hobby, and I think you're really going to love this one. So let's dive in. Hey Peter, thanks for coming, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So it sounds like you're used to being the interviewer, and now you're the interviewee. How does it feel?
It's a little weird, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just gonna kick back and relax while you run the show. It's nice to not have to do all that work.
Nice. Well, let's start with that then. Tell us about your podcast.
Well, so a couple years ago, this is now year 5. We started the week before the country went on lockdown.
Oh,
so a good time to start a podcast.
Timing.
Yep. Not intentional at all, but it was the three of us. We're all woodworkers, hobbyists, and semi-professional. And it all started mainly with woodworking. We were trying to do a serious podcast. And now 5 years later, we're blessed to be one of the top podcasts of all time, like 5%, top 5% of all Apple podcasts, at least. And it's essentially a woodworking show where three boys are giggling like schoolgirls the whole time. We're making jokes, having a good time. We have an amazing community behind us that send in questions and troll us constantly. We talk about what's on the bench. We interview guests in the industry. Traditionally, it's always been a lot more woodworkers and content creators, but we've expanded that over the years and gotten more people on. It's been just a blast. And it's great because it's one of those things that you don't even think about. It's every Thursday we record, and our families, us, we're all on board. There's no question of whether we're recording. It's happening. It's just a part of our life now, and it's great. So when you guys invited me on, I was like, oh, I'd love to see how the another podcast does it.
Yeah, I mean, woodworking is one of those topics that obviously it's an accomplishment. Congratulations to get to the top 5% like that. That's a big deal. That doesn't happen on accident. But I understand how woodworking, of all the topics in the sort of, maker engineering design world, that one would be something that would really stick, because it's something that is so universally appreciated that so many people want to get into. When I talk to, new people I meet, like other parents of the kids that go to my son's school, we get into the topic of like, what do you do for fun? And I talk about woodworking, and half of the guys are like, oh, could you teach me? I've always wanted to do that. But it's interesting though, because it's something that's like it's a hobby a lot of people get into, but at the same time, it's a major industry, and there are a ton of professionals that do it. All of your furniture is made this way in one way or another. It's also this huge professional world, and it's full of veterans that are, I'm sure you get trolled by these guys all the time, but they're these retired guys that are, they know exactly how to do everything. And anybody that does something the wrong way from their point of view, they're going to jump in. How do you deal with those guys? What's how do you approach that?
Kill them with kindness. Not everyone handles it that way. My podcast mate, Dan, loves to just lean into it. He'll purposely post stuff that he knows will get people riled up, especially on Facebook. But like woodworking is a gateway drug to making. It's how people get started. It's how they get the itch to like create other stuff. And then before you know it, you have a CNC. Before you know it, you have a laser, a 3D printer. And you just do what you do. And the best thing that I've ever done is just fully publicly admitted when I make mistakes. Like, oh, so I did this and it completely blew up in my face. So we're going to do it differently. Thanks to everyone that reached out. Or someone mentioned that this could be dangerous. Hey, thanks. Or here's why you're wrong. Like very publicly try to talk about it, because That's how people learn. I've learned a ton of stuff that I haven't had to break myself, that I was able to learn from other people that shared their mistakes. And that's one of the things that we love to admit on our podcast. Like, we just talk about how much we, pardon my French, f up.
Yeah.
We screw up in a shop, things break, we have kickback, we have projects fail, we have a finish backfire on us. And it's good to share that, because that's how people learn. And the reason we're able to answer a lot of these questions when we get them is because we've made a lot of mistakes. We're not afraid to experiment. And yeah, so, and by the way, I should probably mention, the podcast is called Another Woodshop Podcast. We went with the most generic name because we're like, it's just another woodshop podcast. There's so many of them out there. Are we really going to make it? And here we are 5 years later.
Now you're the Woodshop podcast.
But one of them, we're trying to beat the top, the rest, the other 4%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something I noticed when I first started working at Autodesk, I worked at Instructables and I made content. And the stuff I was really interested in was it's always been digital fabrication. I mean, that's just something from, from in my 20s, something I got into. And suddenly working at Autodesk, I had access to all these machines. We had a 4x8 ShopBot. We had there was a DMS, which is like this crazy 5-axis thing you can carve like a statue out of, basically. Lasers, 3D printers, all the stuff that like the old guys hate. So it was
that's not woodworking.
Yeah. So like I did what I tried to do was I made a few Instructables that were like, this is how to do this if you don't have this machine, right? You print out a paper template, you go into whatever drawing app you've got, and you do some offsets for the offset from the blade to the edge of your fence on the jigsaw or whatever, and off you go, drill some holes. You can get the same result. It's going to take longer. It's not going to be as precise, but you can still do it. I think that kind of a few people were maybe calmed down a little bit when they saw that, like, I'm not expecting you to own a $20,000 CNC machine. But something we've noticed in automotive is that these kind of old salties that have been doing all of this really complicated stuff by hand, measuring by hand, laying out by hand, cutting by hand, welding, all of those things. Now all of a sudden there's a lot of younger guys using Fusion, using reverse engineering, 3D scanning, that kind of stuff. And people are starting to see that, oh, this can just save me a ton of time, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed some of these sort of old salties getting used to the idea of using Fusion and designing something in CAD before they go in and start making?
Yeah, absolutely. There's that whole generation has started to embrace change. Let's just put it that way. And change is hard. When you've done it for a long time, and let's be real, like trades were, for the longest time, like, do it, suck it up, shut up, get up early, work hard. You're exhausted every day, and that's a trade job. That's what it's always been. Machines, are just making it easier for us. It's not like it's less work. It's just you're shifting a lot of the work from muscles to brain. You still have to think. I mean, how many times have you triple, quadruple checked your layout and your Z height and everything on whatever you're about to do next on a machine? Because if you fail, if you cut into something that you already have 10 grand into, and you mess up that part, then you have to start from scratch, or it's an expensive repair. So a lot of people are seeing the light. A lot of people, just their hobbies now are not woodworking. It's trolling people that woodwork or metalwork or whatever. Like, when I was your age, we did it blindfolded uphill in the snow. So now people are embracing it. They are seeing these machines. The best part is these machines are coming down in price.
Yeah.
You're getting these like industrial precision machines at like a consumer price. Like, I've got a Onefinity CNC, which is just amazing. The thing is so rock solid, and it's crazy because they still like, oh, still got deflection, and they're like, did you see what I was using 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Shapeoko, that like if you press on it hard enough, it would give you flex. So technology is just improving. Same thing with 3D printers. Same thing with mills. I think you have a mill behind you there, right?
Yeah, Tormach.
Yeah, so nice. And like back in the day was a lot of, you just turned it by hand, get it just right. Now you just program it. Like, it's the same thing with assist from technology. And why not embrace it? Why not make your life easier? You get to do more cool stuff because you could do it faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the analogies I usually bring up to people that are really averse to it from a philosophical point of view, is, that I'm sure there were a lot of people that were not happy about that circular saw when people first started using it in a shop.
Oh yeah.
Right. And we have the Oregon Woodworkers Guild here in Portland, and there's sort of factions, right? And there are the guys
It's a
there.
great way to put it.
Yeah, yeah, and there are the guys that will not use power tools at all. They're doing everything with hand tools, chisels, hand planes. You can be a purist about anything, I guess, but you know, at the end of the day, like, it's funny because we still don't really have a solution to finishing, right? The most
Mhm.
time consuming thing in woodworking, maybe not the time you're putting into it, but the thing that takes the longest in a project usually is finishing, and
Mhm.
that hasn't changed at all. I mean, you probably are doing a lot of sanding by hand. Um, you're definitely doing it with tools, probably a lot by hand, and then you're putting the finish on by hand and then repeating those steps over and over again. um I don't know, I think you have to make a choice about where you want your craftsmanship to come in, I guess, right? um where does that show up for you, like the projects you like to make, the projects people buy? We could talk about that too, maybe get into your shop a bit. um but there is always value in things that are handmade. People look at something
Mhm.
handmade as it's they're willing to pay more for it. They see it as more valuable. Um, where do you put in that kind of work? The human touch, and where are you okay with throwing it at a machine to quickly solve a problem?
So that's the thing. I think the human touch is in every part of it. My machine doesn't do anything without me touching it,
Yeah,
without me putting sometimes more time than it's worth. Like, a classic engineer move, take 3 times as long to automate a task that would take, half the time or a third of the time. So sometimes it's setting it up, but then you're going to get cleaner results. Maybe instead of cutting out a paper template, gluing it to some wood, taking it to the bandsaw, you can just go and model it and then have the CNC cut it out, and it's perfect. But then you also got more waste because of the bit, and then you got to clean up. You got to clean up either way. So you got to pick your battles. For me, is I want to have the most amount of fun. My slogan is making memories. I want to make the most memories, not just get stuck on one project because I want to get it just right. And I still get stuck on projects, but as long as your heart's in it, you're involved in every part of the process. If I cut out a table on a CNC, I'm still sanding. I'm still refining it, tweaking it. I'm not just like pulling off the CNC, brad nailing it together and it's done. I'm making sure that the fit is tight. The finish is good. There's no chatter on the edges, that it looks good when it's done. I still have to round it over, sand it, apply finish, touch it up if something's wrong. So there's still a lot of, as long as you have the passion for it, it's still handmade. Granted, like 3D printing and stuff, that's one that people kind of like, oh, it's not handmade, whatever. But like if you put in a lot of design work and sell that, whether it's a digital file to someone, it's basically like an NFT. It's digital, but it has value. That's cool. Someone made it. Someone designed it. And then the same thing with a 3D printed item. Like you put in the work. Yes, your final product was with a machine. And that's when you're gonna get those factions of like, well, that's not real making, but then they're okay with a CNC making or laser cutting or something. And like you said, there's hand tool guys. I have hand tools. I love hand tools. I want to keep that part of the woodworking world alive. But I also have I have a fiber laser, a CO2 laser, a CNC. I have at this point I think 16 3D printers. Like I'm not any less of a maker. I'm more of a maker because I'm broadening my horizon.
I mean, I guess this is kind of a good time to get into the background, right? So this, obviously this was a hobby at some point, became a podcast, also became a business. If you go to your social channels, you can find links to products that you sell, digital files, all that stuff. So why don't we just start from the beginning? How did you get into this?
So this started like for everyone. I was in the wood shop, or I'm sorry, back then in the garage. There was often a vehicle in it, which is just savage. Why would you have a car in a garage? And unless you're a car guy, that's totally fine. But I had one little corner of the garage it was a new house we bought, and before that, we were on a second story. We had a small patio, and my contractor table saw, miter saw, my tools were in the basement. I had to go up 2 floors, bring it through the house because it was like a back stairway through the house to the front porch, do my cuts, start woodworking there, whatever, and then bring it all down, make sure it's clean so I didn't sawdust all over the house. And this was back when I was like 17, 18, when I started doing that stuff. I just loved working with my hands. And around 2016, I started like, all right, I'm going to post. What's this Instagram thing? Let's try it out. Started posting some content of like me making stuff and posting random photos. Back then it was a photo app, guys. And then 2018, I decided, you know what? I'm done annoying all my friends and family with photos on my personal account. I'm starting another page. And it took me weeks, if not months, to figure out if I wanted to do wood shop or workshop in my name. And I ended up going with workshop because I knew from day one, like, I'm not stopping at this one thing. I'm a serial hobbyist. I love all the trades. My mom was a seamstress. My dad was a car guy. I love woodworking, and now I'm in everything. So started the channel, the Instagram page of 2018. Started doing I was already selling random woodworking projects and things, but started doing more of that. About a year and a half later, or 2 years later, I started the official LLC because it started growing. I started making some more money, and then somebody told me you can write stuff off. That's a write-off. So I figured let's take take a page from my friends that I got to meet a lot of tradespeople and amazing people in the community that encouraged me to do this, and they were all running businesses, and I wanted to grow it too. So I'm gonna backpedal now to like 2019. I get a 3D printer. I apologize. I get a CNC, my Shapeoko. Love that thing. Thanks to Ben Myers, who was a big CNC guy in the community. And I was watching his channels for years. I'm like, I want to get a CNC. They're so cool. I got it. And then I was like, well, 3D printer would be cool. I can make all these accessories. So I got my Prusa about a year later. And then I got another Prusa because I started making products and random jigs for around the shop. And that started taking off. And that first printer basically built my business. And then when I got the second one, it supplemented all the stuff that I got for it. Before I knew it, I had a 40-watt Laguna CO2 laser, a CNC, and 2 3D printers, and that's all I had room for. I honestly didn't even have room for those. Then fast forward to 2021, we moved into our current house, and the garage, my wife was like, that's your space. Like, that's all yours. So I got to build it from the ground up and design it like exactly how I wanted it. I had every piece of machinery picked out in my brain already. So I got a 150 watt CO2 laser from Laguna, big boy. That was the biggest purchase that I have ever made. It was a $10,000 machine, and I like charging that to my card hurt me. But when you start like getting to a certain tier of work, you need to invest in the tools, and that machine is paid for itself like multiple times over. I now have a 3x4 Onefinity Journeyman, Journeyman. And then the printers just kept growing. As soon as I had more room here, I got 2 more. Then the business was doing well. Let me invest into it. I got like 3 more. Then over the years, I've just been getting more. I have bamboo printers now. What's the TRD Pro? Not TRD Pro. That's a car, Peter.
Toyota. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm blanking on a name. It's a Delta. I finally got a Delta to try out through a sponsorship. But I have 12 Prusa printers. I think I have a Mini behind me. Yeah, there it is. That one's just been retired. That used to be my prototyping machine because I would work in the office and print on that. And that's just become part of the backdrop now. Like you've got is that a Form Labs there behind you?
Yeah. That's a Form 2, and then the alcohol bath and the UV chamber.
See, I had to move that out of I got a resin printer, but I had to move it out of the print shop because I'm running out of space in there. So that's getting expanded too. The business is still growing. We had a baby last year. Baby Juniper was born, and
congratulations.
Thank you so much. She's been amazing, but I just haven't wanted to like expand the business because I'm just enjoying my time with the girls,
Yeah.
So things have been kind of like chilling lately, but I started ramping up recently. I got some new designs coming out, so I want to expand the print shop, take away more of the basement, and take over slowly. And the long-term plan is we do want to build a shop on a property, about a 1,200 square foot shop. Basically like a 6-car garage, and just move the whole wood shop in there, and then bring in a little more metal work in there as well. Maybe a little bit of welding, maybe a plasma cutter, something like that. So that's kind of sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but that's the journey and the future that we're planning.
Yeah. Well, how did the business part take off? So you
So
you know you're doing the hobby thing. You mentioned the laser paid for itself. Like at what point did you start? Um, you had a product or an idea or something, and it hit you that, oh, there's probably enough of a market for this that I could sell it.
So I was making tons of random jigs. I had out of the gate, I had a hard time selling items I didn't design. And you could still get some, commercial license with some of these. And this is early days of 3D printing. So now you can like buy licenses and all that stuff. But initially, I was just designing random jigs for installing cutting board feet on a cutting board or, holding pencils in a shop or random things like that. But the thing that took off, I'll show you if we get into the shop later. It was a push stick speed square. So it was a
Mhm.
speed square with a little notch on the end, and you can customize it. So the pins that went through it were a different color. The actual rail was a different color. The square was a different color. So you can make a mark and then use it as a table stop push stick. So
Nice.
that took off randomly. Just like I was making custom logos. I was not charging enough. I was putting people's custom logos on there and like just throwing it into Fusion, cleaning it up a little bit, extruding it out. So like it was physically like in the design. Um, it was super fun. It was a great thing. That alone probably made a couple $1,000s worth of money for again the next printer because I couldn't keep up. I had to get a second one. And then I invested in that laser too. And that was a semi sponsorship. So I like paid half price for it, which was nice because those things are expensive. And, eventually it just started making like shop jigs, stuff for me. Like I have dual tools. Let me hang up my tools. Let me hang up my batteries. So I made hangers for those. I made them for other brands of tools that I have. And then other jigs, hose adapters, random stuff like that. And before I knew it, I kind of had more money than I knew what to do with in a shop. Not that much, but I was like, oh, I can like just buy something. I can buy a tool. So the laser was actually, I knew I was going to make money with it, but it was like, I earned this. Even if I don't sell a thing with this thing, I wanted one so bad.
Yeah.
And I've gotten so many miles out of that thing. I love it so much. Laser is one of my favorite things to use in a shop.
I gotta say, if I had to give up one tool, my laser probably would be the last one. You
Right
know,
on.
a 120 watt CO2 laser, a 24 by 36 ish, right? Dude, that thing is just,
So
you can
nice.
so quickly just crank something out that you need. Um, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Anybody
And the
out there
new
that's
ones are
considering it.
incredible. They're changing over to RF now.
Yeah.
So the beam, I believe, is finer. You get much more precise cuts. And some of them, I think the Aeon laser, one of those lasers is you swap the nozzle out and you can hook up a gas tank and it does either CO2,
Yeah.
RF, or I guess plasma, is it?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, a
fiber. Oh,
plasma,
it's
really?
fiber. No, it's fiber. I believe it's fiber.
Oh,
But it needs some kind of gas for cooling. I gotta look this up. I know Ben Myers, again, he's got one, and I'm very jealous. But
yeah.
there are ones that are multi-purpose now, and I'm like, okay, this is the future. I like this
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. No,
because
I
this.
wasn't even familiar with that. When I first started doing this stuff, I was in college at SciArc in Los Angeles, and they had the laser was a CNC router, like almost
Oh,
I don't know, a generic one, a kit, something like that. It was from I think it was from the 90s, and they had put a laser head on the thing. So there was just like
hmm.
this big, and it worked, but it was like, yeah, it's amazing how far they've come since then. Um,
That's very common now with a lot of the CNCs. Like Onefinity's got they have a hookup with JTech,
uh-huh.
JTech Photonics, I think, and they make diode lasers, and they just keep, with diode lasers. What people don't know is you just stack more diodes. That's why
Oh,
they're getting bigger, bigger. But that's why you double the power. It's almost like RAM on a computer.
uh-huh.
So you got the 8, you got 16, 24. You can just keep stacking them to get more power, and they're very powerful. But then you're still moving that very heavy CNC gantry to
Yeah,
do it. It works great, but I feel like a belt-driven laser sometimes is a little faster with that.
sure. Yeah. Also I don't know, just having a contained chamber that sucks everything out, like that's it.
Yes.
I don't think I would ever want to go back to just open air, laser cutting again.
It's rough, especially if you do leather or plastic, forget it.
Ugh, yeah.
The
On
worst.
I can still smell it, man. Still smell leather. Um, so what products on your site, like which ones do really well still to this day?
It's honestly the tool holders. The Milwaukee fanboys. I love all of you guys. You guys have paid my car payment multiple times. The Milwaukee one sells like hotcakes. It's just literally a tool holder or a battery holder. Just buy the however many you want. Another one that is pretty popular is Festool. It's the smallest little thing, and it sells. I sell so many of them. It's a little stop for a clamp. So like you release a quick clamp and it just drops immediately to the full, like to the bottom. It's a stop. You bump up against the back of it.
Yeah.
So when you loosen it, it stays within a couple of millimeters of your work surface. So then you can one hand,
yeah,
and you can retighten it with one hand instead of having to like push it up again and then pull the handle to like try to cock it up again. And it's crazy. But I use it a lot. Actually, I've had people reach out to me like, "Hey, I have arthritis. This is amazing. Thank you." I'm like, I didn't realize this was going to be so good.
Yeah.
And then another one is something that is not a woodworking community thing. I made it for myself to make backdrops. So it's just like a T-shaped with a V groove in it. And it goes on both sides of like a cardboard or plywood or whatever. And you can have a backdrop and a bottom for photos. And that I sell, a bunch of those. I mean, it's not like hundreds a month, but I would say like dozens a month. And it's nice. It's good. That's the stuff that kind of puts the bread on the table. But we're looking to expand more. So, to have more variety because we've kind of paused on new designs for a little bit there.
Yeah. And the time on your end with either one of those, I'd imagine, is just print, right?
For the most part. Yeah. Now with that is just print. I will say this though, the little clip, I did the most prototyping on that item of anything else because it had to snap onto or get pushed onto the clamp because it's got like a divot in the center. And if with pTree, it was with PLA. So like there's all the material stuff, right? PLA is very brittle, so it'll crack. pTree, it's the same stuff like water bottles and things are made from. So it's a little more flexible. It's got a little more play. But what would happen is when you would snap onto it, the snap was so quick and violent, it would actually crack it.
Yeah.
So I have to like do special instructions and prototype. I think I did 15 prototypes of that one. Sometimes it's like, oh, just 15, but like, no, that's months of work for a tiny little thing that's 1 inch big.
I would just think that's a big win, right? You have that time in the beginning getting it right. And now it's just, how long does that print take, right? I mean, you probably do a bed with 20
I do a
of them.
full bed of it. And, that takes a couple hours. Because everyone calls me old school now because I'm running a Prusa farm instead of all bamboo X1 carbons. But those things are just it's tried and true. It works. They're so easy to maintain, and they print just fine. The quality is beautiful. So I'll wait a little longer for it. It's worth it.
Yeah, I love Prusa. That's what I always recommend for people that just want, like, if you're getting started in this stuff.
Yeah,
I always say get the Prusa and get the kit because then you're learning as you go, right? And then when something inevitably breaks down, every machine breaks down at some point. Now you've got this confidence and you probably remember something of how this thing went together, and it's a lot less intimidating to fix it yourself. And they're great machines. They're super reliable. They have, all the features you want are there. It's just, I think people look at it and think, oh, this is kind of bare bones maybe compared to, Bamboo Labs, which has a really slick presentation, right? Like they've got the beautiful enclosure.
It's the iPhone.
Great machines too. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's the Apple product of 3D printing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fine. I love Apple. But
they're both great. I mean, I'm a big fan of both of those companies. They make really good stuff. It's just what's the entry level one? There's a lot of value in if you've started your print farm with one machine, expanding it with the same machine makes a lot of sense because now you've got this economy of scale, right? Where it's like, okay, well, if one of them breaks down, you know exactly what to do. You've got the parts for it. It's not, you don't have to shift gears to be able to, to fix a problem. So I don't know.
And you can, you got the same parts for all of them. For a while I had one printer that was a hanger queen, as they call it in the industry. Like it's the plane that would sit in a hanger because it was scrap parts for the plane they don't make anymore. So it's the same thing. Like I just was pulling parts off of it. This is a couple of years ago because parts were still kind of like, we were still getting the tail end of the COVID shortages.
Yeah.
And I had to pull parts off of one of my printers.
Yep.
So, the nozzle got clogged, and before I knew it, I was pulling fans off of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
hey,
for
it is
sure.
what it is.
So, how does Fusion fit into your workflow, right? I mean, obviously you're using it to design stuff, but why did you go with Fusion in the first place, and what problems does it solve for you to like keep this business going that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise?
It literally built my business. I love it so much. I always say this, I use 10% of it, and it gets everything I need done. And every week I learn a new thing just from like watching shorts or watching reels or YouTube videos. Like, wait, where's that sitting again? You like learn a new thing. Plus, they're always dropping new features. So initially I was using, I played around with Tinkercad a little bit. I hated it. It just felt so, I don't know. It was hard to
It's
learn.
limited.
Yeah, it's limited. Then somebody was like, "Oh, you should try Blender," and I tried Blender, and I immediately turned it off. It was just so intimidating. As was Fusion. I tried the free version for a little bit, and I was like, "Oh man, I don't know where anything is. Forget it." So I was using SketchUp for a little bit, but like you can't do 3D modeling for 3D printing in SketchUp as well, or you can if you have a bunch of like add-ons and plugins. So um, I'm the kind of guy, like if I'm home, even if I'm on vacation at home, I'm working on stuff. I went on a vacation to Florida with my wife's family, and I had none of my tools, none of anything. So I said, screw it. I'm going to learn Fusion. I did the courses that are built in like online.
Mhm.
Like try this, it was the old Ryobi Sawzall thing.
Mhm.
And I did all those classes. And in 1 week, I learned, and that wasn't like a week of like classes, but I spread it out and I learned everything I needed just to get me going. And everything from there on has been just like, oh my God, it's so great. Once you have the basics, it's incredible. And every year since then, that license that I've purchased has paid for itself multiple times over every single year. It's been incredible. It truly did help me build my business. And again, I'm not even using it for all of its potential capabilities. I'm not using it for cam. I did a couple times. I went right through my bed. My Shapeoko, when I sold it, it had a big like ramp down to like where it
Oh
bottomed
yeah,
out. Bit did not break somehow. I don't know how, but
I've
so
done that.
yeah.
I did that to our Datron at the tech center
Oh
in San
really?
Francisco. Yeah, yeah. One of
Oh,
my least proud moments at the company.
oof. Anytime I see them on like metal working machines, like mills, I'm just like, oh, that just sounds scary. But
Yeah.
but yeah, man, Fusion it was so intimidating, such a leap. And now what I do for the community is once in a while I'll hop on a Zoom call with a few people and just do a crash course. Guys, it's like, hey, in 1 hour you're gonna be designing some basic stuff. We're gonna knock it out. No, I don't charge for it or anything. We just like hang out, BS, and I teach them a few tricks. So it's so fun to like teach that. I'm a teacher at heart. I love that. So it's great.
Gonna see if it's a good time to segue to the shop tour.
I'm gonna jump onto my laptop actually. This is the print shop, and got the Prusa wall, the main bench where we do all the repairs and stuff. Uh, got the oh, that's what it was. FL Sun T something 100 or 200. That's the Delta that I just got.
Nice.
Uh, that's my hanger queen, as I mentioned. Pull
Uh-huh.
parts. So we stock all our stuff that goes out regularly. Got our boxes, and this is just a part of the basement that I kind of work primarily out of. And then this is our shipping station, kind of messy as well. And that's pretty much it. That's the full tour of the print shop. So we're going to be expanding this, making it about double the size eventually, and that's the goal. So that wall over there is going to be getting pushed back about 12 feet. Oh, sorry. Let me square that up again. There you go. So that wall back there is going to get pushed out about 12 feet, and we're going to put another rack here that's going to be primarily bamboo printers with a couple of Prusas. The Prusa rack's going to be back here, and we're going to finally set up a resin station, which we had to put, unfortunately, on hold
Yeah.
because we're running out of room here. And this is the wood shop. Well,
Nice.
metal, whatever else I can fit in here. So
Dusty stuff.
all the dusty stuff is in here. So we got our PM1000 table saw. We God, this thing is probably the most incredible storage system of all time. If you've never heard of LevRack and you got a
Yeah,
big shop, they're awesome. It's basically rolling cages where it helps me stay organized, which is amazing because I don't need cabinets everywhere. Got my hand tool wall because I still love my hand tools. Kind of more the woodworking side, and then that's the all the lasers and the CNCs. It's my favorite corner right here. So
nice.
that's the Onefinity, and we got the Laguna 150 watt,
Yeah.
and most recent edition, the Thunder 60 watt fiber laser.
You're using that mostly for engraving?
Yep, mostly engraving.
Yeah.
Doesn't really cut too well, but I mean, I'm just throwing in stock that's ready to go and medallions and things like that. So it's
Yeah.
been
It's cool to see a small space working for a business, like to be able to make all that happen here, and also to these projects that get a lot of traction on social media and everything. Um, yeah, the lev rack, I'm like salivating over that thing. It's
oh, it
such a
was
cool
the
idea.
best thing ever.
Yeah.
Reached out to them. We were able to coordinate something for right as we moved in. We put that thing in.
Yeah.
Uh, Epoxied the floor. I put the lever rack in. It looked like a cool like car shop, and then I filled it with tools.
Build it
And
with tools.
so this is
Yeah.
the original product. This is
Okay.
the push stick speed square. So
Yep.
that part printed flat like that. This printed flat like this, and the pins just printed, separate, and then they all got inserted in. So you can kind of see the pins are red, orange, and yellow. And this was just like a scrap, like I had leftover pieces. But
Yeah.
this is the one that's been on a table saw for 6 or 7 years at this point. And
Yeah.
it's the one that I've been using the longest. So
Nice.
and it's been great. It literally built the business. That silly little thing.
Yeah, so a lot of our users are going to be looking at this, myself included, and thinking, I want that shop, right? I I have some of that stuff, but there's a lot of things there that I'd love to have. So how do you get started with this? Like you mentioned your laser being something that paid for itself over time, right? Is that the strategy, or do you just buy things piecemeal as you need them? How do you build a shop like this?
Easiest way to do it is so my parents had a trust fund for me. I'm kidding, kidding. That's a joke. So it was a slow burn. I essentially here, let me set you up on a stand so I can actually not shake here as we're talking. So I would get old tools. I had a little contractor DeWalt saw, old Ryobi miter saw, and I started getting cheap tools that were rusted, that were beat up, that were misused, and just like people didn't know what they had. So I was picking up old tools, restoring them and using them. And then when the better one came out, so if my DeWalt saw got replaced by an old like 1990s rigid saw, that rigid saw got replaced by a Delta. That Delta got replaced by a $600 Powermatic 2000 that was sitting in someone's basement that I had to haul out with a buddy. So like there's deals out there, there's so much that you can find. Even this little Ryobi saw here was found on the side of the street. I thought it was bad, just off the block. Works perfectly fine, just needs a blade. So I'm gonna, I wanted a little saw for a finer blade. The reason I'm saying this is because that's how the whole shop started. I was upgrading and selling off the old stuff. And the old stuff sold for what I probably paid for the new thing. So I kept growing it and kept growing it. My first full price new tool that I purchased was this sander. And I wept when I bought it. Genuinely wept because it was $600.
Yeah.
It was the first full price new tool I bought. I use it to this day. I love this thing so much. Best purchase I ever made. So, that was a big leap. That was the first time I was like, oh my God, like that was a lot, but like I had the money. The business made that money. So you don't need to jump in and invest a lot into this. I ran this and ran it today debt free. I've never owed anyone anything. It might go on a card, but if I don't have the cash in my account, it does not get purchased. So I'm a firm believer in you can build with no debt. And then if I shut this all down tomorrow and just did it for fun, I don't owe anyone anything. It's
Yeah.
amazing, So that's the beauty of it. It's so much less stressful. You get to have so much more fun. If a machine doesn't run for 3 months because you're doing other stuff, you don't feel guilty like you have to make a payment on it. So essentially, it just kept replacing old tools with newer ones and newer ones. And you know, full transparency, eventually some sponsorships happened. So certain machines were discounted. Like I mentioned, the laser was a discount. It was I did a content deal with them. So I got 40% off of that. This big laser, I essentially got trade show pricing, but I still had to pay everything else, So like it was still expensive, but it was just what they would sell you that at AWFS. I've had some small tools for free, but most of the stuff in here is completely paid for by me in this shop. It was a slow burn. I would say it took about 4 or 5 years for me to truly build the shop that I wanted. And now I'm just tweaking it and improving it. And I've got all the tools that I would ever want. And, now I'm just getting better ones of the versions I have already.
Yeah, love it, man. That's great advice, and so good to hear you didn't go into debt for to make it happen, you know.
This whole, like, I can confidently say the base of this shop, when I moved in here, I'm talking the laser, the CNC, the lev rack, a bunch of the tools that were in here already. Base of this shop was paid for by 2 3D printers and a Fusion license. And that's not a pitch for you guys. That's just the truth. It
Yeah.
truly that's what paid for almost all of this. Since then, I've just been improving, tweaking, and improving the machines that I have. But most of what you see in here was literally paid for with CAD and 3D printing.
So here you are, you've got your shop, you've got everything you need to make just about anything, but let's get into the scenario of a zombie apocalypse where you got to start over. You've already bugged out to whatever your location is. You can get whatever you need, but you put yourself at great personal risk to go get it. So what do you do to restart your shop, to rebuild civilization?
Uh, First tool, 3D printer, 100%. It's you need it for all kinds of basic stuff. You can print if you have the material. You can print whatever you want, and if you don't have the material, there are even ways to like. I have an Ender 3D, like the original or V3. I have it. I've printed on it all at one time. The reason I have it is because there is a company out there that released free plans to convert it into a bottle, like water bottle, to to PETG
Uh-huh.
filament. You can make filament. So if there's a zombie apocalypse, end of the world, whatever, I could literally convert it into a filament maker and just find plastic bottles in the world and then 3D print stuff with it. And PETG is great, So free
I have a
material.
feeling there will be plastic bottles for a long time after the zombie apocalypse.
That's a pretty solid investment right there. So that would be probably my first thing. And if I'm not even talking about like basic tools, a hammer or whatever, because I feel like you can find that a lot. But I think a
Sure.
CNC would be the next thing. A CNC is pretty robust. Laser's amazing, but a laser doesn't cut everything. A CNC with the right bit, you can get through a lot of materials. So I think that's kind of the next big tool I would get. And then aside from that, you know, some jigsaws, and the thing is like battery powered's great, but like a corded one that you can run off a generator might be good too.
Yeah.
Is that, and I would just slowly start building from there, just be able to like fabricate defenses, so to
Yeah.
speak. Um, and then the one last like craft I haven't truly dove dove into, yeah, is welding, metalwork.
Yeah.
That's the last like piece of the puzzle. I just don't have a space for it right now. I'm
Yeah.
trying to calm down and not jump into it, So once we have the space, I think metalworking is going to be next, and that's when my third tool would be probably some kind of welder.
Yeah. Metalworking, man, that's I don't know. It seems like a big barrier to a lot of people. It's intimidating in a way that woodworking isn't. Like the material is not so forgiving, and but dude, when you've got access to a metal shop, you can all of a sudden you can fix your problem with steel instead of, another piece of wood or plastic. Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. We'll look forward to that.
Yeah, and honestly, if everyone's like, "Oh, what should I prep for zombie apocalypse or end of the world?" Sewing and then
Hmm.
learn welding. Those two things, you're going to be solid.
Well, Peter, this has been really fun, man. Thanks for giving us a tour and telling us about your business. And it's good to see you thriving. Making all this stuff work. It's inspiring to me and a lot of other people that are going to be watching this. So tell us where we can find you.
So you can find us at ptreesworkshop.com or just search pTrees Workshop on any platform. We luckily locked it all down early on. Or search Peter Capar. It comes up as well in Google. I've been pretty good about my SEO, so you guys have some cool projects you need help with, or just want to talk shop, reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Take care.
See you, Peter. Hey, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all things ShopTalk. If you're ready to try Fusion 3 yourself, find the link in our description.